Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Just thought I would pop in, talk to you about what's going on. The planets and the stars. How are you doing? How was your big, massive total solar eclipse on the 25th, 26th? Just some really powerful, expansive energies going on. It's hard to think straight. It's hard to get a sense of our reality. And the stars are trying to help us with this. So, what's going on right now is that the sun and Jupiter are still very close. They're having their exact conjunction. And that energy we were feeling, that was part of this total solar eclipse energy, is Jupiter being right there next to the sun and the moon. And just this like really expansive energy pulling us out of our daily reality, pulling us out of time, pulling us out of our narrow construct. And this is what everything is saying to us right now. This time that we're living in is about looking up and coming out of the narrow reality that we have been living and seeing something so much bigger. So that Sun Jupiter conjunction is like this expansiveness coming home into our daily identity, like who we think we are, you know? And it's a very different way of being in these energies. And I think we're getting a taste of what's to come in this shift into this new age. And everything in the stars right now are telling us that we need to reorient to this bigger truth of who we are, to a bigger truth of our reality, a bigger truth of humanity and the history and everything. And I think, it can really feel like we'll see what January brings, being a very different reality at the end of January, but we'll just see. But it's kind of like, are you guys ready to get your minds blown? Okay, here we go. It's kind of what the stars are saying, because right now Mercury is exactly on the Galactic Center. And so Mercury had that crazy deep dive retrograde in Scorpio, and a lot of those feelings that were going on, and that energy started way back in October, mid-October. And of course, the whole month of November, we were feeling that deep dive in Scorpio. And those feelings are coming back to the surface now, because Mercury is going over this galactic center point. Mercury is catching up to the whole party, right? And that's been this intense energy of the solstice. The sun was near the galactic center, the eclipse, the Mercury near the galactic center, and now Mercury is at the exact point of this galactic center. Now Mercury is our everyday reality, kind of like how are we seeing things, like what's our conceptual basis of what's going on. And so on the galactic center point, it's like, okay, circuits blown and bigger, wider truth coming in, and that just massive activation of I don't know, I'm getting the sense of kind of like seeing our own self in the Milky Way, in the galaxy. Where are we in relationship to this? We've been in a narrow relationship with our day-to-day life, our jobs, our roles, our survival, and the stars right now, the way the planet, the configuration and everything is happening is like, you guys, that's like just very small part, 1%, 0.1 of 1% of who you really are. And everything is pointing to this bigger reality. So Mercury is kind of asking us to reorient our thinking in relationship to this cosmic truth that we are stardust, your consciousness manifests in the body. It's really quite amazing. And really quite amazing how asleep we've fallen into this depth of sleep, into this depth of not feeling connected to this truth, this bigger truth of who we are. And now we're waking up to it. So now that means Mercury at the Galactic Center means that's at the end of Sagittarius. And then on Sunday, Mercury moves into the sign of Capricorn. So it's Mercury's time to join the Capricorn party, right? It's like one more planet. Come on in. And that means it's going to take its turn in that square with Chiron. So Venus was in that square, Jupiter was in the square, and now it's time for Mercury's turn. And so Mercury in square to Chiron, I think this is kind of the energy we're feeling of this rehash of a lot of the issues that came up in the retrograde time. Deep vulnerabilities and energies, because it's like, okay, great. It's a really nice idea, of course, to come into this bigger, wider truth of our cosmic. It's like, wow, this big cosmic, expansive realization type energy. But then you have to deal with the things, all of the reality things and the programming and the contracts and the structures of our life that aren't in alignment with that. They're in the 0.1 of 1% where we've been operating, right? And so now Mercury square Chiron is bringing up the wounds and the energies that have kept us from seeing the bigger truth and living from that place. And so it's just these vulnerabilities are coming up of everything that came up during that Mercury retrograde for people. And we're going to be feeling that till the end of the year. And so here we are. We're at the end of 2019. And that is very much the case because Saturn also on Sunday, Saturn moves to 21 degrees Capricorn, and Pluto's at 22 degrees. So it's like full on, the conjunction is happening. That marker of like when they're only 1 degree apart, that's like the official conjunction is starting. So 2020 is starting. And like I said, we don't know what the Saturn Pluto energy is going to bring to us, but we know that it's like Saturn is manifested reality and Pluto wants to break stuff down and get to the truth. So it's like these realities and different conceptual ways of being in the world kind of colliding, and then what's going to come from that. So Saturn and Pluto getting close together, and it's like hammer time. It's like, whoa, reality, and maybe the reality we're facing is that bigger, wider truth of who we are and how it doesn't fit our everyday life. And how the way we've built this whole world, our day-to-day mundane world, is just totally not in alignment with even a small sliver of that cosmic truth. So we got some rearranging to do, right? And so maybe that's part of that Mercury square Chiron, just this uncomfortable feeling. Like we're not quite feeling that yet, but actually we will be starting on the 28th. And so it's like this uncomfortable feeling of like, ooh, I just, stuff needs to change. And like, I don't understand, Mercury wants to understand. And maybe it is, this is what I was saying, that we maybe wouldn't feel what that Mercury retrograde was about for us until this point in time. So maybe that's what's going on. Those realities are becoming more clear of what is in the way and what we need to shift and what we need to change in order to move into this new energy. So it's all on the table right now because we are at that precipice, at that gateway in 2020 starting. And the other thing that's happening right now, starting to feel this tomorrow too, is the sun in conjunction to the south node. So the sun and the moon were at 4 degrees for that total solar eclipse. And now the moon has already crossed over this point that happened right away after the eclipse. And now the sun is coming into exact conjunction with the south node. Now being close to the nodes during the full moon, that's what makes the eclipses, because it's like everything's lined up. And it's like this lining up. Everything right now is lining up in our world, our little world, with the bigger, wider galactic truths. And then we're seeing where our little world and those galactic truths aren't lining up, So the sun south node has a lot of energy here because the south node of the moon is our past karma, like what's holding us back from the past, what's dragging on us, and of course in Capricorn we're looking at authoritarian structures and those structures of our world that are not supporting these new energies, they've been actually anti-support, it's like, and working against these energies, working against our truth for so long. And so we're all being asked to reevaluate our loyalties, where we're putting our energy on a day-to-day basis. The sun is like our light we have to shine. And with the South Node there, it's like, what's been keeping you from owning your own light, owning your own power? And it's time to get that resolved. But that is a lot of really intense, like scary kind of energies that come up around that from past lives where we have been persecuted or deliberately worked against on many levels, and in this life as well, targeted for our light. So the sun right there is like, do you have permission to be in your power, to reorient your identity to this bigger self? Or did you agree not to do that, which we all have, but now it's time to reevaluate the contracts, right? It's like, wait a minute, we got to take a new look at this. This might have been eons ago and a whole bunch of lifetimes ago that I made this contract, but it's not working for me. Because why would you do all of you done to be here on this planet right now through all these lifetimes and everything you've gone through? Why would you do all of that so that you could just turn your light off and just play small? It doesn't make any sense, right? So these contracts are up for review, and that's a big part of this 2020 energy with Saturn and Pluto coming together. Saturn rules karma and laws and the reality and all that, and then Pluto is just like breaking it all down, ego death. So we'll kind of see. I think it's going to be different for everybody individually, and also it's very mysterious about what that means in the collective consciousness in our day-to-day world. But definitely we're going to be seeing some changes, and we'll just have to wait and see. I'm glad that we're in this together and we can go through this 2020, January 2020, be present with these energies, pay attention. It's an epic time in which we live. We are at the January 2020 is that threshold energy into this new era and new age. And everything in the astrology right now is saying, look up, pick your head up, look beyond your daily life, because there is some shit going on out there, and it's like speaking to us and messages and support if we can open our awareness and say yes and be willing to commit to this experience that we've worked so long and hard to be here for, because it's happening now. And that's the message we're in. So very powerful time, so dynamic with so many transits happening. And so just keep that in mind, that as you move through these old emotions that are coming up from that Mercury retrograde, because Mars is still in Scorpio, and then this Mercury transits with Chiron is bringing it all up again. But just know that it's such a dynamic time. There's a huge energy for just continuing to move and shift, right? And so however you're feeling is probably going to shift soon. Just go ahead and make sure to feel it, feel those feelings, be present with what's happening, but know that it's such a busy time, dynamic time, that it should shift. You won't be feeling that way for long, and then on to the next thing, right? And that's kind of how this big pile up of astrology is feeling right now. It's like, don't just get too attached to what's happening right now, because there will be a whole new story and chapter tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you soon, and I will be in touch. We're in this very interesting time right now because we have another eclipse coming up. It's a partial lunar eclipse. It's on the 10th of January, but the time between eclipses is always very interesting and very weird. And maybe that's good in a way right now, because we're in this reorientation place and adjusting to what's happened to us. I mean, this energy started not that long ago, and in the mid-October, right? And a lot of people are feeling like a completely different person. And it's like, but it's really hard when you're in the midst of a big transformation like that, and the ego death and the things, shit's coming at you from all sides. It's hard to get a sense of what's going on and it's like when you're in the middle of it, you can't make sense of it. And so we probably aren't going to make a lot of sense of this time until we get through January. So anyway, I will be in touch with more updates. I look forward to seeing you soon. And so until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.